Welcome to my week 6 update of Ramsay Hunt Syndrome. A little preview, talk about overdoing it, a positive improvement, talk about breathing better, getting questioned by a stranger. But first I want to say thank you to some of the feedback I had in my last video. For those that are watching along real time, this is a little bit outside of my comfort zone, not necessarily doing YouTube, but being personal on YouTube in public. It's not kind of how I like to roll. I'm here because I felt inspired to share my experience. When I was first diagnosed, I looked on YouTube and there wasn't a lot of people who had shared their personal experiences. I felt like there was a void of people sharing that. It's a very rare condition, so there wasn't a lot of literature. I felt inspired to do it first and foremost for those who have Ramsay Hunt Syndrome, so that they could have a sense of what to expect. Secondly, for my friends and family who want to know more details, this is for them. I'm also trying to share the hope that I have through my faith, because this has been a fairly positive experience in a strange way. And the only way I can describe it is just kind of the faith that has given me hope. Let's get into it. The physical update. Let's start with some bad news. So I mentioned this the last time. It took me a while to get my week 5 update out, because I way overdid it on the weekend. So I was diagnosed on a Friday. The beginning of each week is the weekend. The beginning of this week 6, on the Saturday, I was like, I'm going to go out and work in the yard a little bit. And a little bit turned into a couple hours of weeding just because it's spring. And man, it was getting bad. And my son helped me with it, but it wore me out. Really hammered me. And then the next day on Sunday, I actually spoke at church on Easter. In my faith, members speak, and I spoke to my congregational leader, which is a bishop, and I said, hey, I think I have an Easter talk. So I gave it, and boy, those two experiences, working in the yard and speaking in church, kind of wore me out. So I was pretty hammered by the end of Sunday. It actually took me a couple of days to get around to recording this, which I usually do on Sunday. So the big lesson learned is, while I'm not as exhausted as I was, this is still a very tiring condition with the vertigo, which I'll talk about, with the tinnitus, the hearing loss. There's still a lot of sensory overload. Plus, I haven't exercised since I got sick. And so I'm just not as energetic as I once was. And that we're now going on, almost 2 months of that, because I was sick for 2 weeks before I got diagnosed. Good news is I feel like the bad eye is starting to tear. In addition to the paralysis, I feel like, and you read about this in the literature, is like my tear glands were working, and now I'm starting to feel like they're working a little bit. I still do a lot of artificial tears with these bad boys. The Refresh Optimal Omega-3s, really good. Artificial tears. I do feel like my natural tears are starting to come back and work for me. So that's awesome. I'm still driving almost daily this week, not too far. And that involves going to medical appointments. And I've started helping the household by taking kids to stuff, which has been good. A lot of status quo, still got the vertigo. The way I described my vertigo before, and you saw this in previous videos where I talked about how extreme it was, it's not so extreme. I don't feel like the world's like quite moving as much, and some of that might just be the brain adjusting. But I kind of feel like I have a bowling ball in my head that I'm balancing around, and sometimes if you tip it too far, the momentum will carry me. I guess maybe my head is the bowling ball. Momentum gets going in one direction or another, and it causes issues. But it's not debilitating, but it is still there. Still doing acupuncture 3 times a week. I had cupping this week for the first time. Asked the acupuncturist, why is that? He said, it kind of opens up the blood channels, which will then open up the nerve channels. I don't know if it's helping, but I've read a lot of literature, a lot of people's experiences with acupuncture, so I'm continuing to do that. And the acupuncture said it should help with the vertigo, and vertigo has definitely improved since I started. We'll do a check here in a minute about whether the palsy is any better. Still have a lot of tinnitus and hearing loss. Really can't hear anything. I threw some AirPods in for the first time now that the sores of the shingles have cleared up. Can't hear anything. So I thought I was hearing some sounds, but I put in an AirPod and cranked up the sound, and not a lot there. Going to be going back to the ear, nose, throat doctor in a week and a half. We'll see how bad it is. But my assessment is still pretty deaf. And I'm still tired. I talked about this with overdoing it. I'm better, but I'm still tired. So I'm going to talk about two other conditions. Things I haven't talked about is like the nostril not being able to flare. I'm not really breathing through this nose. I had a big learning from that. The tongue is still feels kind of burned. So I don't feel a sense of taste, but it feels burned. And that's something I read about. Get some weirdness in the mouth. Let's do a palsy check. So I'll get in a little bit close here, take off the glasses. All right, let's see. Let's raise the eyebrow. Close the eyes. Don't think it's closing. Flare the nostrils. No. A whistle. All right, one more. Yeah. The short answer is I don't feel like I have any progress with the paralysis. Let's talk about where I'm at mentally, / some learning, / work. First thing I want to talk about is breathing. One of the problems with the palsy is you can't flare this nostril, as you just saw, and you don't breathe as well. You get more congestion in here. And I didn't care too much about that, other than I get seasonal allergies in the spring from tree pollen, and my good nostril was starting to get congested. So my wife got me this thing early on. I hadn't used it. Side note, I'm not promoting it. I'm just sharing something that I used. I don't get any monetary benefit. This is called intake breathing. What it does is you put these adhesive tabs on each side of your nostril that has a little metal thing, and then you pick the width of a magnetic thing that you choose, and it basically opens up the nostril. So I use the third largest one. You see what you got the little magnets on the inside. You just put this on the nose, and it flares your nostrils. I've tried Breathe Right strips. They're okay. This is amazing. What I found is not only did it give me breathing in my good nostril, but it actually opened up my paralyzed nostril as well. So that's a huge thing. If they didn't look so goofy, not that I don't look goofy already, as I'll show you in a minute, I'd maybe wear them all day long, but you got this big black thing. I guess you can get it in white too, but anyhow, that's a really nice thing. Other kind of interesting learning was a learning I had from an experience. So I'm going to show you this to illustrate this experience. I'm going to put on my moisture chamber. Most of the time, now I don't wear this on the videos, but most of the time, this is how I'm rolling all day long. Is I wear this goggle moisture chamber, which helps the eye from not drying out. Now I was at my son's karate the other night, and this little boy saw me. I don't know if he observed my face because I was just sitting there, just kind of working on my laptop, actually editing last week's video. And there was a couple chairs down, and his mom, I could see him talking to my mom, and I could kind of hear, because it was on my good ear side, that, hey, what's wrong with that guy? She came over with him, and he was kind of nervous, and she forced him to say, hey, what's wrong? So I said, hey, I wear this because my face is paralyzed, my eye won't blink, and kind of explain the situation to him. This is something I've read about from other people who've experienced palsy, that it can be hard to be in public. I haven't really found it hard, but you are weird. I'm wearing this. Sometimes I'm using a cane. Definitely if you're talking, you notice, hey, that dude's weird. Somebody talks to me, I can't hear them. It's just nice to explain, because I don't know that I've ever known anybody close that's had a palsy. I've had some friends from a distance who've experienced it, but it's a weird condition. It's okay to share, and I was glad to be able to tell him how it was. And his mom told me about how her mom had a palsy for a long time. So anyhow, I'm going to take this off so you can kind of see the paralysis in its full glory, but it is one of those things you get questions about. On a work perspective, I continue to be able to work a little bit more. I actually got up to over 30 hours this week, which is huge. So I guess I'm averaging about 6 hours a day. So I'm slowly getting back to a full work week. I haven't got back to my desk, probably just because of the tiredness. I like to work with my head back, where I can stabilize it in this chair. So I spend a lot of time in this chair, but I think I'm getting close to where I can go back to my desk, where I have 2 monitors. We'll see how that goes, at least for certain things. Hopefully that'll be better. Emotionally, I'm feeling pretty good. I think not really getting worse. So I feel good. One of the things I want to talk about is the power of just friends. I've had a lot of great outreach from family and friends, especially early on, but I still get a lot of friends, people commenting on my videos, telling me that they appreciate them. It's a more connecting experience because I was just go, go, go before, running, physically active, and then working, 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 and then got a busy family and busy other aspects of my life. I'm involved in my church. I just try and stay busy from the minute I got up to the minute I went to bed. And sometimes that resulted in not really connecting with people. I mean, I did, but I didn't, right? And having people reach out to me, share their support and their feelings. I actually had a friend who was diagnosed with cancer this past week, and pretty yucky form of cancer. And it's always weird, like when somebody has a big condition, you're like, what do I do? How do I even, what do I say to somebody? Just saying, hey, I care about you, or how you doing, or what can I do for you? Even if there's nothing you can do for that person, just having people say, what can I do for you, means a whole lot. And I think this also kind of relates to kind of a spiritual thought I have. The first great commandment from that Jesus talked about was loving God with all your heart, might, and strength. And the second commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. Really, when we're reaching out to each other, we're loving our neighbor. Now, the interesting thing about neighbor, we don't always choose our neighbors. Some are neighbors we like, some we maybe don't like as much, or maybe we don't connect with as much. We're commanded to love all of our neighbors, not just the neighbors we like. The ability to reach out, to share kindness to one another. In a work setting, I've had people I haven't talked to for years. Some of the people I do work with were really kind. I've had some partners that did just really nice things for me. And you know who you are if you're watching this video. I really appreciate just the thoughtful gifts or notes or, hey, I'm thinking about you. I've had people of all faiths say I'm praying for you. People that don't have faith, I'm wishing you well. And it's all good. And it's humbling. And I appreciate it. And I would tell you that, when you're faced with a really serious health challenge, it is just nice to have people who care. So thank you if you're one of those people who's shared some kindness to me, called me, visited me, sent something to me. It all matters. It all helps. So that wraps up this week's update. If you like this video, like it, ask me a question in the comments. I'm happy to clarify anything. And subscribe to this channel if you found what I'm doing useful so that others can see what I'm doing. See you next week.